Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca Lester and I am the college advisor at Person High School. And today I'm going to be talking to you all about the SAT and the ACT, specifically what those tests are, why do we take them, and how do you register and when do you go about doing that. And what we're going to talk about today are a few sub questions. What is the ACT? What's on them? Who's test optional? And that's been a phrase that's been thrown around recently. So I'll explain what test optional means and what schools are going to be using that as an option. We're going to talk about when to take the tests and how to register for them. And then we're also going to talk about how to pay for them and what test preps are available for you so that you can feel successful about your tests. And what I also want to recommend is at the very end of this video, I'm going to have two demos, one for the SAT and one for the ACT. And specifically in those demos, I'll be walking you through how to register for those tests. Okay, so let's get started. So the SAT and the ACT are simply tests that help us get into college. And what they do is they provide colleges with more information about you, specifically academic information. So what schools are wanting to do is get this holistic picture of you. So what are you interested in? What are extracurriculars do you do? And one thing that they also want to know is what are your academic strengths? And so these tests are a way to sort of show that, although there are some limitations to them. They are just tests, they're not you. But we also know that they have been used to kind of see if you will succeed in those first year classes at college. They're not the best predictors. So there are issues with taking the tests. We all know that. However, they're still really important parts of our applications, and we do want to be putting in our best foot forward as we go through those tests. And so what's on them? So they're very different tests, although they have some of the same categories. So for SAT, they have the reading and language and writing sections, and they also have a math section. And what they do to score you is they take the reading, language, and writing test, and they combine those scores. And they also have the math component as well. And together, those are going to be 800 points each, totaling to a total of 1,600 points that you can get for that score. And so they'll have that as your final score for the SAT. And we also have the ACT, and that has more sections, including English, math, reading, science, and writing. And they have a score range from 1 to 36. And I want you to also notice that there are different amounts of questions per minute for each of those tests. So it's important to think about that as you're planning and preparing for the exams or for those tests, is just to notice the amount of questions per minute and see if you can challenge yourself as you think about the time that you're allotted. And I also want to mention that with these two tests, you can get a super score. And what that means is that if you retake either of the tests, what they'll do is they'll take your highest section score from each of those exams, and they will use that as your final score. It's called a super score. So for instance, if I make taking the ACT retake, and the first time I took it, I was having a really bad day. I didn't do the best on the English section. If I retake it, then I can focus all my efforts on my English section so that I can bring that score up. And what happens is my second retake, or my retake, I score so much better on English that whenever my final super score comes out, I will be having my highest math score from my first test show up as my super score, along with my English score that I had done so much better on for my second test. And so that just creates your super score, and that's what schools will be seeing. So I just wanted to give you a note that if you decide to retake the ACT because you all took it in February, you can do that and get a super score. And that's also a great way to focus your efforts on specific subtests like English, to bring those scores up. And I do want to talk about test optional. So that's been something that we've all been hearing recently. And though it is a great option now, that if you are not able to find a test center, if you were having a bad day and you don't want to send your scores, it's great because you have the option to do that. However, I'm going to highly encourage that we all still take it, specifically because UNC public colleges are basically not technically test optional. They are sometimes requiring test submissions, and it will be different per school. So I just want to put that out there so that you can do a little bit of research at the schools that you want to attend and see if you need to send your tests. I do want to also point out that the UNC public colleges will be admitting students at or above a 2.5 weighted GPA, or students who are below a 2.5 GPA that have an SAT and ACT at those marks. So if you have a really high GPA, you might not have to take the test at all, depending on the school. But if you have a lower GPA and you still want to get into one of those colleges that might not accept people at the 2.5 weighted GPA or not, you can always take the ACT or an SAT and see if those scores are high enough for you to be admitted. As for private colleges, there are several who have said they're test optional, and again, just check back with the school to make sure that that's clear and accurate. But that includes Duke, it's Elon, Meredith College. Some of those universities are deciding to go ahead and change their options for testing. As for when to take the ACT and SAT, so we'll start with the SAT. On the left, you'll see all the test dates, and on the right, you'll see the registration deadlines. And I really want to point out that the registration deadlines are incredibly important because you will accrue a late fee if you miss them. So please, 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 if you're planning to take the September 26th test, be sure to register before the deadline on August 26th. Usually the deadlines are about a month in advance, so you have time to plan. As for the August 29th, which is coming up, that test date, usually there is that late fee. However, they've waived it for this specific exam. So if you want to still take this test, you can register by August 18th. You'll have to do it by then, but you will not have to pay a late fee when you do so. And just to point out, the last exam that you can take for early action and early decision is usually this October 3rd test. So please be sure to register for that by September 4th. And as for the regular decision, kiddos, you guys need to be registering on that November 5th date or before, because your last available test is December 5th. And what I mean for last one is that your applications for college will be submitted before the next available test. So December 5th, kids, you're going to want to be doing that one because your application for regular decision is going to be coming up before the next test, which is March 13th. So be sure to be registering and looking at those test dates. There also may be an available January test. However, they've not made that confirmed. So right now we're not going to plan on that, and just be sure to be hitting these other deadlines and registration deadlines and test dates and all of that. As for the ACT, again, the test dates are on the left, registration deadlines are on the right. Please be watching those registration deadlines. As for the early action and early decision kids, be sure to be registering by September 17th because that is your last available test date. You can still be taking the tests through September, whatever. However, the ones after the October deadline will not be applicable to you because the next test is going to be only available after you've submitted your applications. For the regular decision, be sure to be taking that December 12th test or any of the ones before, because again, that is your last available test. So here are some necessities for registration. When you go in to register, you're going to have to create an account. And I will say there are a lot of unnecessary optional questions. They're asking you questions about your extracurricular activity, your classes. You do not have to fill those out if you want to save time. The reason why they have those is to set you up for a scholarship search and some other resources. However, you do not have to fill those out if you are crunched for time. Be sure to upload a photo, and there are several requirements, so just make sure that your photo that you upload is going to allow you to get into the test center, because they will be checking that photo against your appearance to make sure that you are the person that you say you are. As for the payment method, there's a credit card fee to pay for the payment. However, you can also do a fee waiver, and for students who would like a fee waiver, I'll go into how to get that in a little bit later. So make sure to be printing your confirmation or ticket at the very end, because you're going to need that printed ticket in order to get into the test center. So please make sure that you print that and take that with you on the day of the test. Additionally, please don't forget to enter your data correctly. If you don't enter your data correctly, you may not be allowed to enter the test registration or the test center that day. So make sure that you're filling out all of your information accurately. Additionally, the day of the test, make sure you bring a photo ID, because you're going to need that in order to get into the test center as well. So your ticket and your photo ID, both are ways for them to confirm that you are who you say you are. To actually find those registration sites, I've listed those links on the right. So the SAT registration and the ACT registration are there for you if you'd like to go ahead and type those into your browsers. One more thing about this, if you took the ACT in the spring, You can ask your counselor for an ACT ID on your scorecard. You're going to need that to create an account. So make sure if you're registering for the test that's happening now or this semester and you took the ACT in the spring, you're going to need that ID in order to create an account. You did not create an account whenever you took it in the spring. Paying for the tests. So the SAT and ACT test fees have increased, and now they're at these specific levels. So if you want the essay portion, you will have to have more payment for that test. You can also get fee waivers. So for the SAT, you can get 2, and the ACT, you can get 4. And what the fee waivers are, as you can see on the right, you can get the fee waivers for if you qualify under several or one of the following criterias. Includes like free and reduced lunch, or if you're getting aid for a low-income family, or if you're in foster care. Those are all ways that you can get a fee waiver, and that will actually cover the entire cost of the test. So please ask me, ask any of the college advisors or counselors in person, and we can get you set up for a fee waiver. So here are some test prep resources. I want you guys to know that really the best way to prepare for this test, especially if you're taking a retake, is to check your past scores. See where you need the most practice and then really hone in your efforts on those specific sections. You can also find more resources on Khan Academy or the ACT Academy online. Those are both great ways to find resources for both of those tests. You can also really, truly, the best way to do it is to practice tests. The reason why I said practice 3 times is because it's really the best way for you to get the most familiar with the test and get that, that really solid grounding and foundation so that you can feel comfortable when you're actually in the exam. And here are several resources. They are linked, and I will include these on the newsletter or something so that you guys can access those different resources. But I will have those available to you. But there are several ways for you to get these free practice tests so that you can practice the questions and see how to maneuver through those tricky questions. And I just want to follow up everything with you guys are more than just a test score. I know that these tests seem very important. It feels like you have to put your heart and soul into it. I do want to acknowledge that we know that, you know that, everybody knows that, the colleges even know that these are just test scores. They are not complete reflections of you. And so your essays that you write for your college applications, your extracurriculars, your GPAs, those are all very reflective of who you are. And so I just want you to know that you are more than the test score that you get at the end of the exam. I do want to mention though that you do need to take it seriously. They are still important parts of the application process. If you have any questions going forward about whether to take the ACT again or to take the SAT, just please contact me and I can help you find more resources if you would like them. You can set up a meeting with me at the link below. You can also find me on email or Google Voice. And I just want you to know that you guys are very capable and can find a way to work yourself so that you feel successful on these exams. And I do want to mention again that right now I'm going to be transitioning to SAT and ACT demos. So if you would like to figure out how to register for those specific exams, please just wait just a second and you'll see the next screen pop up with my demos for those registrations. Thank you guys so much for your time and good luck preparing and thinking about this next semester. I enjoy talking with you guys and I wish you all the best.